Long time no see, guys. I really appreciate your patience while me and the kiddo and my wife and the new kiddo have been getting adjusted to our new schedule and becoming a family of 4 instead of a family of 3. I just want to let you guys know that everybody is happy, everybody is healthy, a little bit of sleep deprived, but we're getting a little bit better each day. And I wanted to say thank you for all the kind words and messages that you guys wrote to me while I was away. I really appreciate it. I figured the best way to come back would be with something fun, something unique, something you probably haven't seen before, and I feel like I have achieved that with this Overdrive Ostrich deck. Let's take a closer look. Let me state up front that this is a theme deck. This is not a deck built around a specific kind of win condition and synergies towards that win condition. This is built around Overdrive Ostrich, who is a bad guy from the Mega Man X series, and someone that me and a few of my friends have become kind of obsessed with, and that's because of a few key pieces of card artwork, and I'm going to show you the one that inspired it. Let me make my face go away, because you have to see all of this greatness. So this is 7th Airborne Unit, and you cannot deny that this piece of artwork is just freaking incredible. The card itself is pretty mediocre, but it's not bad if you have the right kind of deck. So I wanted to make a deck that could take as many pieces of Overdrive Ostrich cards in the game and cram them all into one thing. So that's kind of what we've done. I went with mono red because most of the Overdrive Ostrich cards are in red. We've had the initial Overdrive Ostrich card from Core, which is the 4-cost 2/7 with Rush. Now we've obtained some newer cards since then, including 7th Airborne Unit, and we also have the newer Overdrive Ostrich, who is a 4-cost 2/6 with Rush and Memory 2, where he gains +1/+1. So we have that at our disposal. You're also going to notice that there's a lot of other cards in here with Rush, specifically Red, Fate-Defying Ryu, Valstrax, BB Hood, and Guy all have Rush, so they can actually benefit from 7th Airborne Unit. A couple of other things you will notice are buffs. We have Inborn Powers and State of Nothingness. These are here not just because they're good, but they also play into Wrath Awoken, which is 22 AP to give 1 unit flight and +3 attack, 3 being the maximum, that number equal to the amount of times that you have buffed a unit's attack power. So it can be 1, 2, or 3. 3 is the maximum, that is the cap. So this deck is built around being able to allow units to use Rush, get in, and deal lots and lots of damage. We have a few Trust Amid Suspicions here, Liberating Slash, which are great removal. Blockade Strike is fantastic for dealing with revenge units and other units that have devastating effects when they leave the board. We also have Agent's Memories as a great closer. Fate-Defying Ryu is very powerful. Lucia can be okay in certain situations. Valstrax is incredible. We've used it in a couple of decks already on the channel as well. And then 1 BB Hood, just because we're sticking with the Rush theme. This is a theme deck, and I want to see it all the way through. So if you're a bad enough dude and you want to take this deck for a spin, here is the QR code. Now I'm sure you're wondering, just from looking at this deck, you're asking yourself, does it actually work? Let's find out. So I'm going to be doing commentary on these matches after the fact, because I was playing this when I wasn't able to record, but these matches are definitely worth seeing. So right away we are up against a Wesker deck, and this is Dark Destruction, which is a bit unusual, and the build itself is not the most common Wesker build that you'll see right now. There is a lot of revenge here, and you'll notice straight away he starts with Spreading Infection to fill up his board. We don't really have any way to contest this, and our hand, in all honesty, is kind of mediocre. We've only got 1 unit, but we do have 2 Trust Amid Suspicions to clear any pesky units out of the way. So Guy is the way to go, and we draw into Valstrax, which is great. Valstrax pops. This unit is so fast, doing devastating amounts of damage. So Valstrax is out, and then out comes the Sigma. But I am not super scared of the Sigma and what it can do in this situation for a few reasons, and the main one is because we have Blockade Strike. So he is attempting to destroy the Valstrax. We are going to move it and put it out of range of murder. Spikes get some extra MP back. Valstrax still chugging away for a devastating amount of damage. So we let the Sigma go. It dies. We could have targeted with Blockade Strike if we had enough MP, but we end up letting that one go. So out comes a unit that I'm all not that familiar with, Griffin, which you don't see all that often because it's just a 6/3/6 with flight. So blockade strike here, not getting its effect of being able to negate a death effect, but it is going to clear it out of the way to let Valstrax keep chugging. And that forces him to use Dark Destruction to get rid of it, which is a good call because Valstrax is very, very powerful. And if you allow it to kind of run amok, it's gonna cut a swath through anything that your opponent can put down on the board. So we put down another Overdrive Ostrich here, and the intention is to just kind of snipe that last 2 health if we can do it. We have Agent's Memories on deck, which would be another great way to do it. But we can give this Overdrive Ostrich flight, and unless he's got a way to get around it, and as you'll see he doesn't, he actually loses that game. So that's 1 win for Overdrive Ostrich. This is Bringer of Nightmares. This is a lot of revenge-focused stuff, which is not a bad matchup given all the games that I've played with this Overdrive Ostrich deck. So we start out with a much better hand, but we're still going to scoop it and see if we get something better, and we do, because we start with Lucia, who can pop given the right circumstances. So that's what we're going to try to attempt to do here, and that's because Lucia has the ability to keep your opponent's board clear if she isn't contested. Now the Tyrant comes out, which is not that big of a deal. We throw down the Overdrive Ostrich in the bottom because we've got to start with the Ostrich. It's a theme deck, for God's sake. So now we throw the guy up top, and we're already, you know, kind of keeping up with him in terms of damage. So Blockade Strike is a great choice for any of these low health revenge units, because if it would have hit, it obviously would have negated the revenge. This unit would have been gone, and it wouldn't have gotten the devastating effect from when it dies. Not that it would affect this board anyway. So because he is using Selfish Predation, we're going to swap that Overdrive Ostrich to the middle. It gets some bonus stats, and it ensures that it's going to be dealing some damage on its own right. So Sigma comes out in the middle, which is no surprise. Sigma is incredibly strong. You should expect to see it all the time. Valstrax doing big things. So we throw the Valstrax down on the bottom, and now we are putting on an immense amount of pressure. And even though he's able to pull out Spreading Infection to kind of calm things down a little bit, it's really not going to do him a whole lot of good, because he's going to lose almost all of these trades. The only trade he will actually win is the Valstrax trade, which is not that big of a deal because we have units ready to go. And why not another Overdrive Ostrich for good measure? He has Bringer of Nightmares on deck. He gets one of his Revenge Tyrants, another Overdrive Ostrich for good measure, and we have ourselves Wrath Awoken, which we're going to throw on the bottom to deal 4 damage and give this unit flight, which will allow him to stick around for a little bit, get some more damage in as we build up to our big finish. So again, we're just waiting. We don't really have anything to worry about. As these units come out, we can just put more units down to kind of trade with them. We use State of Nothingness for a meager amount of extra attack points, but every little bit helps when you're trying to close out games. So these two will trade down there, which is fine. The Overdrive in the middle is going to die, but we have Fate Defying Ryu, who is going to deal a lot of damage, and he's coming out really, really fast. But the big Wesker comes out for the big trade, which would be devastating in a situation where we weren't running a deck with tons and tons of rush, but we are! So it doesn't matter. So hey, low battery. So it doesn't matter, we end up clinching out the win anyway because all of our units have rush. Everybody likes to see Resonate lose, so I figured I would showcase one of those. Spoiler alert, we've got an Ebony and Ivory Dante. It's a little bit old school. You'll see that whenever the cards start hitting the board. But this hand isn't all that bad. Lucia Uncontested, as I mentioned before, can really pop, but she may not be the right call depending on what this Dante decides to do first. More than likely, he's going to wait to get as much MP as he can for a solid combo. But we can also wait to do that. We're in a position where we don't have to press the advantage. This isn't a dual color deck, so we don't have to go super fast. So we throw out Bit to trade with the Ibuki. They have the same MP cost. There was probably a more efficient way to deal with that. If as soon as I dropped the Bit, if I was able to be fast enough with the Liberating Slash, probably could have dealt with that in a better way. But at the end of the day, we do get the solid trade. So when I mentioned that things were old school, this is really what I was talking about, and that is Jester. This is a core unit that when it resonates, it spawns those little blood bats, those 2/4 purple units with flight whenever he resonates. So Lucia this is a great opportunity for her to pop, and that's what we're going to do. He uses Jackpot on it, which isn't really going to matter. And at this point, because he's so low on MP, I don't want to deal with this Jester popping out more flight units to block my Lucia and chip her away. So we get rid of the Jester. He only gets one Bloodbat or Blood Goyle or whatever the hell it's called out of this Resonate combo. And now Lucia is getting ready to pop. And we've got some other big problematic units for him, specifically the Valstrax and BB Hood in the right situation. BB Hood, in my opinion, was the better choice there for the direct damage, allowing Lucia to trigger her effect and clear out all of the enemy units. Wide open board for the taking. We're going in. We're rushing in. So we have a 7th Airborne unit, which can work in conjunction with BB Hood here. But Lucia also works technically, but doesn't really get the full benefit of adding flight. So there's no real point in doing it. So now we're just kind of waiting to see what happens. We're really chipping away. I'm avoiding making any big plays here because I don't want to get in a situation where he is going to brainwash one of my big units. But because we hit maximum MP, figured the best way to go about it was to throw down a Valstrax and let it go to town, and that is what we do. He puts the Reverberate effect on the Ibuki, but it does not matter. At this point, he is on life support. We've lost next to no life, and we have Agent's Memories to finish it off if he has no counter, and he doesn't. So that is GG. That's game number 3. Final game, Giant Killer, Spike Dive Bomb Nergigante. I really like Spike Dive Bomb. I think it's a hero art that a lot of people sleep on, just because in terms of the potential of making a big blocker and beefing up attackers for swinging in for big damage. Plus, it's super cheap at just 15 AP. So because this is a Giant Killer, I'm wary of what's going to come out. The Sigma is first. That is no surprise. Sigma is incredibly popular. A lot of decks are built around a Sigma shell right now. And then comes out Nello Angelo. So I decided to put on some pressure with Valstrax, and we drew, excuse me, into a Blockade Strike, and that is fantastic against Sigma, and here's why. We dropped the Overdrive Ostrich to chip that Sigma down to 2, and unless he can contest here, the Blockade Strike is going to kill the Sigma and nullify its revenge effect. He attempts to use Bolt Reaver's Valor on his bottom unit, but I don't want to deal with that either. So we're going to use Trust Amid Suspicion. He has no more MP to deal with what we're doing, and that is going to pop 2 of his units and completely take Sigma out of the equation, which is fantastic for us. That's something we don't have to worry about later. He's already almost down to half health, and we've got a pretty sizable board, including the Valstrax, who is dealing consistent fast damage, which is what we want. So now we're just kind of waiting to see what happens. The Junie comes down on the bottom. He does have Spike Dive Bomb, so expect that to come out here shortly. He chooses to throw it on the Junie. I don't know why my gameplay is lagging here. That's unusual. I apologize for that. But what happens in the trade is the Junie is beefed up, and then he attempts to use Fate of the Unworthy on the middle Overdrive Ostrich. There's nothing we can really do about that, so we just got to let it go. We got plenty of units to play anyway. So the Valstrax and the Junie trade, this Nergigante is hanging on by a thread. We just have to close the game out. He drops Arkham up top, but we have the perfect tool to get around that with Inborn Powers if this goes uncontested, which would move the Overdrive Ostrich to another board slot. Unfortunately, he has Mad Massacre, which will trigger his Arkham's effect to pop my Ostrich, but we do get the bonus MP from that anyway, so it's not that big of a deal. And we've got plenty of units to close this out. Fate Defying Ryu is one of them. What we end up choosing to do is actually going with the Fate Defying Ryu and then doing Wrath Awoken, but because we haven't buffed enough, this isn't going to put us in range for a kill. It's only going to drop it really low. So this was jumping the gun a little bit, but as you see, it works out. Overdrive Ostrich takes game 4. So there it is, Overdrive Ostrich, a deck I have been wanting to show off for a very long time. I actually tried to make it worth several months ago, but I just couldn't figure out the formula to where it could actually win games. And I managed to take a few W's, so I figured it was worth showing to you. So I hope you enjoyed this theme deck. I would like to do more of them, but as you can imagine, it is difficult to make theme decks that can actually succeed on the ranked ladder. So let me know what you want to see me do next. The best place to do that is in the comments. I've got a lot of comments from last week that I need to catch up on, so I'm going to be working on that this week. I will keep you posted about what I'm doing on Twitter. So if you want to know what's coming up next, that is the best place to look for it. I love you guys. Stay safe out there, and I'll see you next time.